As the start of this problem explains, this is the 5-number summary. So make sure to remember you are looking at the min, Q1, median, Q3, and max for each of these data sets. Which of these groups had the highest score? We are simply looking at the last number, which is the max. So the girls had 5.9, which is a higher maximum than the boys. Which had the greatest range? We are merely taking max minus min. The max minus the min for girls, the distance between the max and the min, is 3, where for guys, the distance is 3.2, so the guys had the greatest range. Which of the groups had the greatest interquartile range? Is the distance between Q1 and Q3, and for boys, it is 0.9, where for girls, it is 1.2. I'm merely looking at Q1 right here, and Q3, and that is a distance of 1.2, which is bigger for the girls. And if we were to interpret this in context of the problem, which is always good to know for the test, we would state that the middle 50% of reported reading scores for girls, or reading grade level for girls, had a range of 1.2. The first quarter of reading grade level for girls was 4.3. The third quarter for reading grade level for girls was 5.5. These are all important things to know because we want to make sure we can report things in context of a problem. I can't reiterate enough times how many times we say interpret the median in context of the problem. And if I were to interpret the median for the girls, I would say the 50th percentile of reading grade level for girls was 4.9. I could go even further and say this means 50% of girls scored above this and 50% of girls scored below 4.9. Important to interpret it in context of the problem. Next, which group's scores appear to be more skewed? Explain. So this one is a tough one, and let's take a look here. We want to see which one has the quartiles more spread out. And if you look, the boys have a really big spread here at the end. It goes 0.5, there's a distance of 0.5 here, and there's a distance of 1, where on the girls, and that's the distance between these quartiles right here, or the 5-number summary points. And the girls have a distance of 0.6 here, and then 0.4. I'm just doing the differences between those numbers. Down here on this end, the boys have a difference of 0.4, and the boys have a distance here of 1.4. And that's similar as to what the girls have over here. Some would say the boys are more skewed, and let's go ahead and click that. The boys are more skewed than the girls. And it's because the quantiles are not the same distance from the median, and I don't like this question, but if we're talking about skew and we only have this data set, we need to look at how far out the quartiles are from each other, and it looks like the boys are a little bit more spread out. Fantastic. Which group generally did better on the test? So I would go with the girls, and we really have the median right here to judge by. And so the median for the girls was higher than the median for the boys. And when we talk about general, because the data is a little bit skewed, we want to use the median. And we only have the 5-number summary here, so let's go with that. The girls did better because their median is higher than the boys' median. Good job. 3 box plots. With these 3 box plots right here, let's make sure we know what we're looking at. This is the prices of grapes, I believe. The box plots display case prices in dollars for grapes produced by 3 different vineyards. With this in mind, we see one that looks a little bit weird, and this is the minimum value in Vineyard C, maximum value right up here. This is a weird one that sometimes tricks people. The group with the highest, most expensive grape would be Vineyard A, and we're just looking at the maximum value over here. So let's go ahead and final check that, and we are correct. Which vineyard produced the cheapest grapes? And once again, that's Vineyard A, which has a lot of variation. In which vineyard are the grapes generally more expensive? And now when we talk about generally, it's kind of an on average thing. I wish it said on average which vineyard has the most expensive grapes or more expensive grapes. And generally, it's Vineyard C, because that's their median. And also their IQR is a lot higher than the others too. It's a good general idea right there too. Last part. Determine which sentences describe which vineyards. This vineyard has a typical case price of about 96. Well, 96 is in here, so that is A or B. This vineyard has the most variable case prices. That is definitely A. Has to be A right here. This is the most variation. This vineyard has an outlier right here. This vineyard has an outlier. And it's important to note that there's just no data right here. If you notice this white space, there's no data. That's why there's no whisker. This is the 25th percentile. There's just no data. Maybe there's a huge clump of data right here, or this is a small data set, but 25th percentile and min as denoted by the 5-number summary. So the answer for this one will be answer C. This is a pretty decent side-by-side box plot display and is good for making sure we understand how to compare multiple distributions. For this last problem, people get a little bit confused because you can put it into jump. It's a decent way of doing it. But since we're putting this in as time-ordered data, I want us to take a look at what's happening here. And this one I have is pretty easy to see the pattern for. You notice it starts out really high, 6, 5, 7, and then at the end it's very low. So what we want to see is something with a bunch of high numbers to start and then low numbers to end. And look right here. If you zoom in on this one, you can take a look at the first few numbers in here. 6, 5, 7. I'm just tracing over 6, 5, 7. And look right there, 6, 5, 7. The last numbers in this data set, going backwards, are 1, 0, 0, 2. And now if we remove this, 1, 0, 0, 2. So you can actually read off the numbers and make sure you're picking the right one. Now we run into a problem. If you'll notice, this graphic and this graphic look identical. With that in mind, the data set goes from 1943 to 2005. So this one has the wrong number line on the bottom. And there's a trick to this one that you can always get it correct with from what I've seen. If you merely look for the two that look identical and then pick the one with the right number line on the bottom, you will always get it correct. Summarize what you see. What does the time plot show? And this time plot here shows that there is definitely a trend towards less hurricanes. The number of hurricanes has been decreasing steadily throughout the given years, and we can see this in a bivariate quantitative display. This is year, which is quantitative, and hurricanes, the number of hurricanes, which is also quantitative. A bivariate quantitative display is a scatter plot, and if the axis on the x-axis is a time axis, it is a time plot. So if we had something like minutes or years or hours, we could make a time plot. And that will do it for this homework.